Welcome, Philippe. The title of Philippe's presentation is A Unifying Theory of Physical Interactions. The platform is yours.
Thank you, Margie. I am very pleased to be here. Good afternoon or good morning to everybody. I'm very pleased to be here presenter. First of all, I would just introduce myself a little bit. So I have been a reader for now more than 50 years of the Urantia Book. At that time, I was a student in my hometown in Strasbourg, in France, and I was immediately attracted by the papers dealing with science. I was at that time student at the Faculty of Science, and especially nuclear and atomic science. So I was impressed by what I read there in this book, because this looked well advanced and revealed some details that could not have been invented by human beings. You see, especially paper 42 impressed me a lot and confirmed that a theory of everything was possible. So in 1968, when I read it for the first time, for me, this was a scoop. Actually, this was even written in 1955 or before. So my presentation will be the following. The plan will be the following. I first will quote some elements from this paper 42, and then I will comment what are my interpretation of these thoughts. So first quote, it is 42. It's always 42, so I could say 01. It said the foundation of the universe is material in the sense that energy is the basis of existence and pure energy is controlled by the universal father. So 1.1, the foundation of the universe is material, but the essence of life is spirit. The father of spirits is also the ancestor of universes. The eternal father of the original sun is also the eternity source of the original partners, the Isle of Paradise. Matter, and this is an important point for me, matter may appear to manifest inherent energy and to exhibit self-contained powers, but the lines of gravity involved in the energies concerned in all these physical phenomena are derived from and are dependent on paradise. The ultimaton, the first measurable form of energy, has paradise as its nucleus. So it's quite clear. So we decided to work in this frame in order to find the theory of including matter, electromagnetism, weak and strong nuclear interactions in line with the Urantia Book. And let me guide by my intuition, actually generated by my thought adjuster, instead of the findings of the official science. Why? Because, quote 42.13, there is innate in matter and present in universal space a form of energy not known on Urantia. When this discovery is finally made, and so it means it will be made, then will the physicists feel that they have solved almost at least the mystery of matter. Also, quote 42.41, light, heat, electricity, magnetism, chemism, energy, and matter are in origin, nature, and destiny one and the same thing, together with the other material realities as yet undiscovered on Urantia. When the Higgs boson was discovered some years ago, I noticed the similarity of that particle with the matheron. It's another name for the Higgs boson I have invented. I had already elaborated this matheron on basis of paper 42. The Higgs boson gives their masses to the particles, especially to the neutron, proton, and the electron. So the challenge was to determine the mass relationship between the Higgs boson and these particles. This is the main purpose of my presentation. There are different levels determining the interdependency of the elements. So this initial process does not alter the primordial element A, which remains entirely on its own level. It is alone on its own level. However, on the second level, the three elements coexist. So what says the Urantia book on that? 42:16. Energy proceeds from paradise, fashioned after the divine order. Energy, pure energy, partakes of the nature of the divine organization. It is fashioned after the similitude of the three gods embraced in one, as they function at the headquarters of the universe of the universes. And all force is secreted in paradise, comes from the paradise presences and returns thereto, and is in essence a manifestation of the uncaused cause, the universal Father, and without the Father would not anything exist that does exist. So we are here at this level of the space potency or absoluta. What is said, quote, in the book 42:23, space potency. This is the unquestioned free space presence of the unqualified absolute. Space potency is a pre-reality. It is the domain of the unqualified absolute and is responsible only to the personal grasp of the universal Father. A universal Father, of course, it's the representation of the universal Father. On Uversa, space potency is spoken of as absoluta. Now we're in presence of a primordial force. This represents the first basic change in space potency and may be one of the nether paradise functions of the unqualified absolute. Primordial force is sometimes spoken as pure energy. On Uversa, we refer to it as segregata. You see that the element ABC of the second level were now permute and yield the elements of the third level, which are the following: ABC, permutation, ACB, BCA, BAC, CAB, CBA, etc. Indeed, the three elements A, B, and C may be considered under these 6 angles. There is therefore a multiplication by 6 of the elements of second level, simultaneously with the creation of Higgs groups determined by the 3 elements A, B, and C. The elements of the second level, of which these groups are issued from, are not affected by this operation. The 2 types of elements, A, B, C, on the one hand, and their groups on the other, are independent, but not indifferent, of course. There is a superposition of the 2 levels, according to figure 2. Here we have the second level, ABC in blue, in red, the third level, pure energy segregata. These groups, and also their degree of dependence or interdependence between each other, characterize, therefore, the third level. Why is there permutation? It is the most complete way to return to the initial process, since the elements B and C can in this way play the role of element A. The return of the elements to the initial point is a fundamental process corresponding to reaction after action. So we are now turning to, in the next 3 slides, to what is quiescent energy. The 3 next slides are devoted to quiescent energy. What is said in the Urantia book, quote 242:10, emergent energies. The passive presence of the primary force organizers is sufficient to transform space potency into primordial force. And it is upon such an activated space field that these same force organizers begin their initial and active operations. Primordial force is destined to pass through 2 distinct phases of transmutation in the realms of energy, manifestation, before appearing as universe power, let's say physical energy, ultimaton. these two levels of emerging energy are first, quiescent energy, and second, gravity energy. So the three next slides are about quiescent energy, and later the three others about gravity energy. So we are still arranging the elements in a certain way. These elements of each, the elements of each group of the third level we have just seen before, arrange themselves one by one, then two by two, and finally three by three. Arrangements by one by one, and two by two. The elements of each group arrange themselves one by one and two by two in such a manner as to form 6 configurations, each of them being characteristic of its initial group, according to figure 3. You can see here the former ones and the declination of each former group. This is the stage of the quiescent energy. You can see here 6 and here 10. You will see that 10 times 6 is 60. 60 times 60 is 3,600. This is very important when you will see, let's say, the stage of the Higgs boson and of the neutron and proton. So there are 10 arrangements taking into account the initial group. So after having an arrangement 1 by 1 and 2 by 2, we have an arrangement now 3 by 3. The elements of each group of the third level arrange themselves also 3 by 3 in such a manner to form 6 times 6, that is to say 36 arrangements according to figure 4. You can here see the figure 3 and what we have added to figure 3 to form the figure 4. There are therefore 36 arrangements 3 by 3, that is to say 36 new groups. These 6 configurations shown in 6 columns are characteristic of the 4th level and represent the most complete manner to return to initial group of the 3rd level. This is the last slide concerning quiescent energy. So there is a new arrangement, 36 new groups created by arrangement 3 by 3, create in turn 9 elements by arrangements 1 by 1 and 2 by 2. See figure 5. This is a continuation of figure 4. Only the case of ABC is represented, but we have 5 others, of course. And this is then the stage at the quiescent energy before we come to gravity energy. There exist, as you said, 5 configurations similar to the one represented in figure 5. The 6 configurations are characteristic of the 5th level. The 6 configurations represent the most complete manner to return to the groups which characterize the 4th level. It's always like that. We have to come back finally to the paradise level. Now are coming the first material manifestations. What is said in the book about gravity energy. Quote 42 to 12. The now appearing gravity responding energy carries the potential of universe power and becomes the active ancestor of all universe matter. It's the reason why I have entitled it the first material manifestations. In response to the work of these force manipulators, space energy rapidly passes from the quiescent to the gravity stage, thus becoming directly responsive to the circular grasp of paradise, absolute gravity, while disclosing a certain potential for sensitivity to the linear gravity pull inherent in the soon appearing material mass of the electronic and the post-electronic stages of energy and matter. So they still said further, 42 to 13, quiescent and gravity energies, when regarded collectively, are spoken of on Uversa as ultimata, for ultimaton. So universe power, physical energy, space force has been changed into space energy and thence into the energy of gravity control. So, quote 42 to 15, on Uversa, we refer to the realm of universe power as gravita. So here we have the partnering of the 6 groups and the initial group at the 6th level. The 6 times 6 groups formed by arrangement 3 by 3 partner with the groups they are just issued from, the purpose being always to return to the initial process. So here there is a movement that is also said in the Urantia book. There is a movement backward to create the first material manifestations, the ultimaton, the first ultimatons. These are 36 grouping. You can see 36. One can distinguish 2 times 18 groupings, which form, for instance, 1 and 31. If you look at 31, you can see that if you take it backward, ABC plus ABC. Here it's forward, ABC plus ABC. So this is very important for the creation of the ultimaton. And I always put the number of the mirror grouping in parentheses. Now each grouping or each group contains 10 elements, as we have already seen. These 10 elements couple themselves with the 10 elements of the corresponding group in the frame of the same grouping. See here, BCA, which is number 15, is coupling with number 21, BAC. And we have 10 groups which are coupling with each one with the 10 others. Actually, then we have, instead of 100, we have 10 times 10. BCA is coupling with CAB, then BCA is also coupling with C, with coupling with A, etc., etc. They form 10 new elements. The same with B. Again, 10 at the end, we have 100. Each element of a group partners with each element of the partner group in the frame of one grouping. The operation leads to the creation of 100 units composed of 2 to 6, basic elements, BC or CBAC, etc. Since this partnering can be performed in one sense or in the other, as we have seen, there are therefore 200 units, 100 alternating with 100, in the sense that they cannot exist simultaneously. Example, BC and then CB. There's also the same partnering in the frame of the mirror grouping. There are therefore also 100 units partnering with 100 other units. And we have then 100 plus 100 here, what we just saw before, and 100 plus 100 others. So we have 400 at the end, 400 units. Now we are coming to the creation of ultimatons. We can see that the 200 units of a grouping are opposed by 200 units of the mirror grouping. This is seen in the figure 9. We have here the 100 100, 100, 100. Actually, these are the 400 we just saw before. They are grouped in that way that there is an opposition by mirror effect and an alternation. And again, an opposition by mirror effect. There are therefore 18 times 400 units which oppose themselves 100 by 100 by mirror effect and which alternate 100 by 100. This constitution allows to obtain a constant material-immaterial manifestation, the opposition allowing the materialization of 18 times 100 particles composed of 18 times 2 times 100 units, and the immediate dematerialization and the alternation creating the continuity of this materialization, dematerialization. 18 times 100 antiparticles succeed this way to 18 times 100 particles in the frame of a constant process of materialization, dematerialization. This allows for the discontinuity of matter. These 18 times 100 particles, which alternate with the other 18 times 100 antiparticles, are in fact the first material-immaterial manifestation. The opposition between two groups of 100 units creates a mass phenomenon, which perpetuates itself by alternation. The opposition is also creating the phenomenon of antimass, which perpetuates itself also by alternation. The phenomenon of antimass dematerialization presides over the dislocation of the matter, formed by the mass phenomenon materialization. It has to be noted that the antiparticles opposed to the particles as well as the mass opposed to the antimass are notions which are not corresponding to what we call commonly matter and antimatter. Actually, charged matter has not yet appeared at this stage of the dematerialization process. Remark. First, I would just tell you what the Urantia book is saying, 4264, quote, "The ultimaton unknown on Urantia flow down through many phases of physical activity before they attain the revolutionary energy prerequisites to electronic organization. Ultimatons have three varieties of motions: mutual resistance to cosmic force, individual revolution of anti-gravity potential, and the intra-electronic positions of the 100 mutually inter-associated ultimatons." So, see my remark. Each unit of a group of 100 is composed of elements of different character. This composition is characterized in three ways. Following a static composition, 2 to 6 elements compose each unit, example BC and BCA, CBA. These compositions determine a more or less great relations with the primordial element A, or let's say the mutual resistance to cosmic force. Following a dynamic composition, there is a constant alternation of each unit with another unit within each group of 200 units, which determines an axial rotation spin effect of each unit on itself. In reality, alternation of each unit with another unit. They never whirl, actually. It is an alternation. It's the reason why we have always 1/2, 3/2, etc., at the electronic stage. The speed of this rotation is a function of the partnering speed, different according to the composition of each unit, composed of 2 to 6 elements. Third, following the respective position of each unit in a group of 100 units. They are privileged regrouping by 10 units, just what I said before. 10 units times 10 are the 100 units, because each basic element creates 10 units with the help of basic elements partners within the same grouping. And this is said also a little bit in a different way in the Urantia book. Now, we are coming to the constitution of the matter, which is my interpretation of the Higgs boson, but we will see that it is exactly the same. So constitution of the matter, let there be 18 times 4 times 100 units interacting as follows. So opposition, alternation, 18. First, what is said in the Urantia Book, 4263. Ultimaton functions by mutual attraction, responding only to the circular paradise gravity pull. Without linear gravity response, they are thus held in the universal space drift. Ultimatons are capable of accelerating the revolutionary velocity to the point of partial anti-gravity behavior, but they cannot, independent of force organizers or power directors, attain the critical escape velocity of de-individuation, return to the present energy stage. Mutual attractions holds 100 ultimatons together in the constitution of the electron, and they are never more nor less than 100 ultimatons in a typical electron. The loss of one or more ultimatons destroys typical electronic identity, thus bringing into existence one of the 10 modified forms of the electron. Again, there are 10 modified forms because grouping 10 times 10 to create 100. Ultimaton also said in Urantia Book 4266, ultimaton do not describe orbits or whirl about in circuits within the electrons, but they do spread or cluster in accordance with their actual revolutionary velocities, thus determining the differential electronic dimensions. The same ultimatonic velocity of actual revolution also determines the negative or positive reactions of the several types of electronic units. The entire segregation and grouping of electronic matter, together with the electric differentiation of negative and positive bodies of energy matter, result from these various functions of the component ultimatoning interassociation. Actually, we could say at the present stage that the ultimatons are more or less comparable to what we call the neutrinos, the sterile neutrinos, but we have to discuss about that. So we come now to the materon. You can see here that we have for each one 200, 200. This is 4 times 18 times 100 units constituting the materon with material, immaterial particles. Okay. These 400 are creating 200 ultimatons, immaterial particles, ultimatons, actually. So here we see the mass of the materon or of the Higgs boson, which is 2 times 18 times 100 particles, antiparticles, a total mass of 360,000 E masses. Sorry, it's a point like in European way, not in a comma here. Then we have the trunk of the antineutron and the trunk of the neutron. The trunk of the neutron is also 18 times 100 particles of mass, 1,800 E masses, electron masses. This is another representation. It is about alternation of the 2 times 1,800 particles, antiparticles of the neutron. And this is prefiguring the materon or the Higgs boson. Actually, if you calculate here, you have 1,800 mass, electronic mass, and here also they are alternating. And here we have the time factor which has intervened at that stage, because at that stage the time is intervening and creating for each line a differentiation. Here you have, for instance, 18 times a reproduction of one electron mass. Here only 17, etc., because there is a time factor introduced. And if you calculate all that together, you will come to the Higgs boson. The Higgs boson is about, let's say, the addition of that, and of 1,800 times 100, of course. We have to multiply it by 100. This is in total, you see, what I said here, 1,800 electron masses plus 18 plus 17, etc. is 171, etc., electron masses. And this is the mass of the Higgs boson. Let's see. And of course, when it's 100 of it, it is what I calculated for not a great difference, of course. It's just a step forward. And then, and this we will see on the next page, I explain you, all these 1 and 0 are converted in 111, etc. And after in 117, 136, it means that it is distributed in the following way, broken down in the following way. 1 is still 1, then the second one is 17. It's 17 times 1 because of the creation of time at that moment. Afterwards, you have 17, no longer 17, but 16, 15, etc., which is 136, etc., etc. The total of mass of the neutron, because here we are at the stage of the neutron, as we will see, is that one. And this is giving a mass in MeV, which is the mass of the neutron. We have here the schema I made about the mechanism of acquisition of the neutron mass. You will see the same here. The 100, 1,800, then 18 times 1, then 17, 16, 15, etc., 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 etc. So this gives us the mass of the neutron. These two schemas. And of course, this is the basis for the energy matter and for electron and atoms, because here the neutron is splitting in proton and electron, and it has also a discrete mass. For let's say the quantum physicist, these figures are the discrete masses of the neutron, of the proton later, and they are comparable to what is called the gluons, and the gluons. These are actually the gluons. We can compare that to the gluons. And they work also in a different way. It's not only, let's say, they're not only working at the level of the matter, but also at the level of electromagnetism, because electromagnetism, as I have said in my longer paper, because this is a bit more complicated to explain, is mass plus antimass. So with these tables, I could calculate and determine also the two other forces, which are those of called weak and strong nuclear interactions. This is, of course, developed in my longer document, or even more developed on my internet blog.
Thank you, Philippe. We certainly enjoyed your presentation. We can go ahead and start. Would George or Phil wish to pose a comment or a question?
Yeah, thank you, Philippe. That was very interesting and very complex. I had difficulty following a lot of it. You're dealing mostly with quantum level phenomenon, correct?
Yeah.
And I was wondering, in your research, have you come to any conclusion about the possibility of developing quantum gravity that incorporates both the standard model of particle physics and the general and Einstein's general relativity?
Yeah, I tried. Actually, I'm dealing with quantum physics, and I am more acquainted with the three, let's say, forces, which are electromagnetism and the weak and strong interaction. What concerns gravity, of course, quantum gravity, it is a question I asked you just before, after your session, actually. For me, quantum gravity is about creation of mass, what I call massification, and demassification, because this allows the discrete the discrete way the matter is created. You see, the matter is created in discrete way, as you know, and this is about creation matter and immediate demassification or annihilation of the matter, etc., etc. And it is a thing we are not seeing. Why? Because our brain, poor brain of human beings, is made of, as you know, of cells, of molecules, etc., but later at the end of neutron, proton, and electrons, and even at a wider stage or innate stage of ultimatons. This is very clear in the Urantia book. So what we are perceiving, and this is the problem, the real problem we have as researchers, what we are perceiving is actually not the reality, because we are exactly participating in the same way than the mass, inert masses, let's say the planets or the suns, the stars, etc. We are participating in the same respiration of state of the cosmos. Actually, the Atma, as the Indians say, or in my language, Atman, which means respiration in German, is about this massification and demassification. And this is done at an infinitesimal scale all the time. And what we see is only the result, the stroboscopic, if I may say so. You know what is a stroboscope, of course. The stroboscopic effect we see. Let's say the stroboscope is it's the best image I have found. The stroboscope has two plateaus, as you know. When they turn the world exactly at the same speed, or at the same pace, we do not see anything. Our eyes is seeing an image which is static. When the pace is slightly different, a little bit different, we see a world which is very, very, how do you say, not very rapid, very, and if there is a difference of this of the pace, it is much more rapid, and this is the problem we have. Get that our brain is made of matter, neutrons, protons, etc., electrons, but we also linked, as I just shown, the neutron, the proton are linked to Higgs bosons. And the Higgs bosons of the matheron are actually made of ultimatons. And these ultimatons, as I said, are in the how do you call that, in the respiration of the cosmos itself. They're not linked to the linear gravity. And as you said before, the absolute gravity and linear gravity is absolutely the same to me. I fully agree with you. It's absolutely the same. But I see it at the quantum level, and you see it at a larger level. But with the difficulty for you to not to have always the truth. You see, the truth is very, very hidden. It's hidden not by God. In fact, it's hidden because we are how do you call that, all the time tossed back and forth to the paradise, but not in a manner which is well organized. And this is the problem. When our brain or our body are not have not the same pace, we are still materialized. If they had exactly the same pace of massification and demassification, we could be light. We could be beings of light. And this will happen one day, as is said in the Urantia book. We will one day have an era of light and life and etc. And this is not yet done, of course. We are at the stage where we can find the unifying theory, as I said. We have the means to find this unified theory, but we have not. I speak about the official quantum physicists. They have not the ideas to do that. Actually, they are.
Philippe, yes. That sort of leads to a question that Andre Rodatus has. Which was the undiscovered force in 1943 and in 1934 in the book, the interelectronic space in the atom, as it was called. In your opinion, one of the forces we have since discovered, or is it a, quote, a space force reaction of the unqualified absolute yet to be discovered?
We have yet discovered it. I have discovered it. If you do the calculation in my last schema, you will see that the vibration is 860 times more or less that one, and this is also said in the Urantia book. In the Urantia book, if I remember well, they said somewhere that in the inner atomic space, there are vibrations of that kind and of that value. So I calculated it, and you will see. I come to that result. We have found it. I have found it. I'm sure to have found it. Of course, the problem is that I cannot understand the official physicists, quantum physicists, to consider my matheron and the Higgs boson as the same at present. It will come, perhaps. It will come. If this is done, we will discover the reality of matter, and also that matter is also made of ultimatons, which are, let's say, the first manifestation of matter, and which will enable us to make also a lot of things on a theoretical basis and also on a practical basis. For instance, to me, the travel in the stars is not a problem with the ultimatons. Once we could convert the proton and the neutrons in ultimatons, and this is possible, of course, with the technology we do not have at present. With the technology we do not have, if this is possible, we can very easily travel between the stars. Because it's you see, it's cosmogonic also, and also at the level of the quantum.
Okay, I think Ralph was raising his hand.
Yes, Philippe. As a radiologist, we work with isotopes, of course, all the time, and one of them is the positron emitters. And I'm assuming that when you're talking about antimatter, that includes what happens with positrons when they meet electrons, and they generate 511 keV signal.
Exactly.
And,
sure.
And you mentioned the way the revelators have interjected, it seems to me, events that cause us to have to think outside the box. For example, if there are positrons, how could, if the number of positrons and the number of electrons occurred simultaneously in equal numbers, as you point out, we'd end up with light, but that's all.
Yes, exactly.
And it seems to me that they have, generated examples, for example, with positron emitters, that force us to think, well, how could matter come into existence spontaneously and end up with such a huge amount of matter and not enough antimatter, to match, so to speak.
Yes. This is very clear in my mind because, as I told somewhere, we have not to confuse matter and antimatter with mass and antimass. Actually, I haven't explained it here. I have explained it in my longer document. The normal mass is, of course, with an electron. So we have a mass. Let's say we have a mass of 1 electron, and we have a charge of 1 electron, which is a negative charge, as you know. And this is actually the combination of a mass of 1 electron plus antimass plus mass. And the positron is the contrary. It's normal mass, the positron, with a charge which is opposite. The opposite is antimass plus mass. Sorry, the electron is a positive mass plus antimass. And the positron is positive mass, but with antimass plus mass. Actually, it is the contrary. I haven't explained it because this is the difference between the neutron and the proton. We will see that the factor of Lande, maybe Phil Calabrese could perhaps explain that better than me. The factor of Lande of the neutron and of the proton is different, and is one negative, the other positive. This is due to the fact that if within the neutron, the mass is growing, and within the proton, the mass is slightly going back in time. Okay, I have explained it in my longer document. I cannot explain it here, especially in English, which is not my mother tongue, of course. It's a bit more difficult, but this is the problem, you see. And I have tried to master it. And why then there's a question when you said 1 electron plus 1 positron can give light, because if the two masses are positive, how it is possible for the charges is obvious. But we have not to forget that the charges are once antimass and mass for the positron, and for the neutron mass. Important enough, they can crunch actually the mass and create the light. But this is perhaps not the good. I have to give a better explanation in writing, if you wish.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Philippe, I have a question from one of our audience members. His name is Jimmer Prieto. I am not a scientist, but work more on the field of philosophy. According to the numbers observed in your presentation, I can see patterns between 1, 3, 7, 10, 100, 1,000, etc. Is there any relationship between these numbers with the pattern numbers from paradise down, from deity to planets, deity trinity, 7 super universes, 10 major sectors in each super universe, etc., up to the number of habitable planets, 7 times 10 to the 12th? Thank you, Jimmer Prieto.
Okay.
Would you like to respond to that?
Of course, certainly, yes, of course. As you have seen, my distribution of the elements, 3 elements, figuring the 3 gods embraced in one, come to 7, come to 10, etc., etc. All these figures are linked. They're absolutely linked, and of course, it's true that these figures, which are in the Bible, as well as elsewhere sometimes, and in the Urantia Book also, of course, these numbers are absolutely the numbers of the deities, you see.
Yeah.
As a philosopher, we can say that the brain we have, which is made of matter, let's say molecules, protons, neutrons, etc., has a link to the Higgs boson and to the ultimatons, which are directly responsive to the circular gravity. And so we are passing in this circular gravity without noting it. We are not able to notice it, but we are. Actually, the moment we are speaking, we came billions and billions time tossed back and forth to the ultimatons, and again to the matter, etc., etc. This is about brain. This is about soul and about spirit, of course. All this is absolutely linked. So for the philosopher, it's important.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Philippe. Phil Calabrese has a question and a comment.
Thanks, Philippe. I must confess, like George, that I wish I understood more of what you said. I guess I have a general question as to what realities are referred to by your A, B, and C, and in particular, you form sequences,
yes.
Not just subsets.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yes.
I'm wondering where in the Urantia book, or is this mostly your construction rather than something that you could find in the Urantia book or pointed to in the Urantia book? I'm pretty familiar with paper 42, and I don't remember any sequences like that. Maybe elsewhere you can point me to where those sequences show up.
Yes. Thank you for that question. Actually, as you say, there are 3 gods embraced in one. And they said that the sequences are beginning with these 3 gods embraced in one, and from the nether paradise. So I put ABC, okay, for me, because I couldn't put 1, 2, 3. You are a mathematician. You know perhaps Évariste Galois. Évariste Galois, it's a French mathematician, which is very known in France, which has theories which are like these ones. Maybe it's not so common in the United States, but
oh yeah, okay. Galois theory, yes.
Okay, Galois theory. Okay. Sorry for my pronunciation. It's so difficult.
He's an algebraist, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so he developed these theories, and I had only this possibility to use that one, because I had to begin with 3, because it said in the Urantia Book, paper 42, there are 3 gods embraced in one. Okay. Then I come to the ultimaton with 100. And then I had also, let's say, the structure of the neutron proton, which is based on, let's say, 1,800, 18 times 100. And more or less, I come to that system. Then I knew also that my levels have to correspond to the circles, because we have 6 or 7 circles. We have to go up to go to the deity. This is said in the Urantia book. We have to go up from the 7th circle to the 1st circle, etc., or 1st circle to the 7th. And so this gives me some indications. The rest, I asked my thought adjuster to do the work. I do the following, you see. When I have a question and a problem, I put the problem mathematically. And I repeat it before I am sleeping. So I repeat 3 or 4 times and sleep, because it's a bit terrible things. And then the morning, I have sometimes an answer, sometimes a good one, sometimes a bad one, because it depends also on my interpretation of all that. The thought adjuster is correct, but my interpretation is sometimes not that one which he wanted. But this is another problem. So I tried to find out this system. This system could, of course, be improved. I would very, very much like that these quantum physicists and others, like you, George, or Nigel, communicate with me. We could do perhaps a common job on that and improve it. I have no problem, you see. For me, I am just have the ambition to find the truth. I have no other ambition. I'm nearly 75, so my career is over for a long time, so I can do what I want.
We do have another question from an audience member. They didn't give us their name, but it is I'm sure, an interesting question. So you made the comment that we could voyage between the stars. Are we not limited by the speed of light?
No, yes, we are limited by the speed of light, but we have not to forget that once we achieve the speed of light, there is a change of paradigm. Actually, we are becoming light if we quantize well. Actually, at that level, when we are becoming light, we are actually able to surf on this time-space, because the time-space is created by the massification. Actually, the creation of mass is equal to the creation of gravity, of quantum gravity. And if this mass is created, it creates at the same time the time. And both mass and time are creating space. Actually, space is a creation of mass and is a creation of time. So if we are able to pass through the mass and demassify us to come to the level of let's say the neutrino or sterile neutrinos, or to the level of the ultimatons, we are able to pass through, actually.
Great. Thank you, Philippe. That was a great answer. I want to welcome Betty, who I just saw. Betty's there, who just, yes, there she is. Welcome her to our group. I know that Andre had further questions. Do you wish to voice those, Andre, or?
Well, sure. And again, thank you, Philippe, for your paper. It was wonderful. And I might just go and read them just because it might be easier for me to get through them and understand that. Anyway, it's just quite an ambitious project you have, Unifying Theory of Physical Interactions.
Yeah, of course.
It's nothing short of Einsteinian or you know, it's quite ambitious. So you've gone a long way to try to illustrate that for us, you know, and without trying to compromise. I appreciate your axiomatic approach. It was a very interesting approach numerically. One of the questions that came up for me, I mean, because in your paper, you made a lot of the process of decay by which some particles demassify while others are massified. Okay. Now, I, like many in the audience, are increasingly interested in the direction of physics that would suggest that mass may not just be a phenomenon of the aggregation of particles as once thought. I mean, basically the billiard ball model of matter that most lay people hold in their mind. But as Nigel Nunn has suggested in his, you know, brilliant bringing down to the layperson an understanding of some of these things, possibly a variable characteristic of the particles themselves. Some are speculating that spin may be part of it, or that other things. I'm not competent to speak to that at all. But here are some of the things that come up for me as questions that relate directly to the paper. And you made a number of citations. And for me, the one on atomic cohesion, 42, section 8, seemed to pertain at least to your paper most of all. Energy, mind, and matter, atomic cohesion. So Margie brought up the idea of the undiscovered force in the interelectronic space of the atom. And I think you tried to answer that. If you wanted to clarify that.
Yes. First of all, my approach is also that one of information. As you see, a lot of physicists, quantum physicists, are now looking for information, saying that at the beginning there is information. Actually, for me, it's not information in the sense of what they think, because I think it in the sense of Urantia Book, of course. So it's God, etc., etc. But it is exactly the same type of idea, because we do not know what is mass, what is energy. We just know how they work. This is, if you see, for instance, Isaac Newton, he never understood why gravitation is an action at a distance. And it's very difficult. The problem is, I have solved it in the following way, saying that it is the creation of mass which is creating the time and the space. It is the reason why there is an action at distance, because the mass itself has created it. And what has created the mass is the ultimatons, and the ultimatons are themselves created by another process I have tried to describe. So what concerns spin, for instance, is quite clear from the ultimatons. We have spins which are half spins, one which are how do you call that? In English,
full spin.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. And this is very easy to understand with the ultimatons, because when an ultimaton is in opposition or in alternation, there is, of course, a plus and minus phenomenon. Let's say one is not able to exist at the same time than the other. So there is an opposition, or let's say they cannot exist at the same time. So this at the level of the electron is the case of the electron attraction, plus minus, and on the contrary, when the two positrons or two electrons, they cannot merge. So this has to be found at the level of the ultimatons. And it's then easy to find. But we have to, as you say, it's an ambitious project I have to create a unifying theory. Actually, we do not know, as I said, we do not know what is energy, mass, what is time, what is space. We do not know. Ask any of physicists, the greatest physicists, they do not know what are these basic notions. They speak about all these notions, and Phil could perhaps tell me also. Tell us also. We calculate with these notions. We use these notions, but we know no clue about what is mass. Of course, we say mass is energy, and energy is mass. Okay, that's fine. But we have not determined what is energy, and we have not determined what is mass. We can just say it is the same, or it is practically the same. But we have no idea of what it is. And this, we come back to what George said. You see, everything comes from God, actually. And for me, it is exactly the same. At the quantum level, I have the same understandings than George at the macrocosmic level, cosmological level, you see.
Thank you, Philippe. Well, so on a slightly unrelated, but not really, because you are talking about the buildup of various particles. And of course, with the Urantia book, the revelators had a limited mandate. I mean, they could not reveal something that was brand new. So they even stuck to the old term mesotron that Hideki Yukawa predicted in 1934, and then renamed about a year later as the meson, right?
Yes.
And then of course, many others afterward had many flavors and even unflavors, muons, pions, kaons, vector mesons, everything. None of these except the pion, which has a mass of, if I'm right, somewhere at 134, maybe 137, 138, I forget right now. They don't come close to that 180 times the mass of an electron that the revelators are talking about. So all these particles have widely varying masses. I mean, with orders of magnitude in some cases in just electronic mass. So here's my three questions for you regarding that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite candidate for the mesotron? And I might ask some of the others here.
First, I answer that one after the two others. So my mesotron, I calculated, is 176, 77 electron masses. And this calculation is made on my blog. If you could look at my blog, if you wish, and I calculated the mesotron mass, yes. And calculated also the mass of the others, because all that is, let's say, linked to the Higgs boson or the matheron. I prefer the terms of matheron because the matheron is giving the mass to the others. Everybody is saying Higgs boson is giving the mass. I say matheron, from matrix of matter. This was my argument. Matrix of matter is giving the mass to all these particles, especially to neutron, proton, electron, which are relatively, let's say, particles which are, how do you call that in English, stable. The others are not stable, but you can calculate all those others. There's a lot of calculation I have done on that with these figures, and it corresponds.
I want to go back to something I think you said a few minutes ago, that the creation of mass results in the creation of time and space.
Yes.
Okay. So then I'm looking at paper 11, section 8, and or section 5 first, where it says space is not force, energy, or power. And then in section 8 of paper 11, it says space is non-responsive to gravity. So in the creation of energy, it occurs in space, but it has nothing to do with space.
Exactly.
At least that's the way I interpret those statements, and I was wondering what your viewpoint is.
Yes, my viewpoint is actually the same as yours. Actually, it is the mass which is responsive. The space is just, first of all, the mass, the creation of mass is responsive for everything. Creating the mass, as this, for once we agree with Einstein, a little bit. The mass is creating the time. Let's say without mass, there is no time.
The difficulty I'm having is that there's no inherent connection between mass and space.
Because
mass comes from energy, and energy does not come from space.
Exactly.
Energy comes from paradise.
Exactly.
It appears in space, but it's not connected.
Yeah.
So to say that creating mass creates space and time, I think, is a contradiction with what the Urantia book is saying.
I say, but we have to see how it is with the Urantia book. That mass is creating the time first the time, and the time plus mass is creating the space. Actually, without mass and without time, space has no significance. You see, because we are dealing also with a lot of things. We are not always able to understand, but like mass, energy, space, time, what is all that? We do not know exactly. For me, there is only one action, as you said. It comes from the paradise. There is the circular gravity. The circular gravity is creating the mass. And then this is creating the gravity and also the anti-gravity, because we are exactly, you see, once it is massified, it is automatically demassified for me at the quantum level in order to be replaced by another particle. So we have the system of discrete matter.
If I understand what you're saying, you're seeing everything from a quantum viewpoint of virtual particles and so on and so forth. So everything is coming into and going out of existence as it does on the quantum level.
Yes.
That's the way you're looking at it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Ralph has a question.
I can't resist this opportunity to pick your brain. There's a brief reference in the Urantia book. It's only one place, as far as I know, in discussing the difference between living material and non-living material. And mention is made that there is a spin associated with basic particles in living organisms that is not present in non-living matter. You've thought a lot more about spinning than I have, I think. Do you have a comment on that? It's immeasurable as far as I know in any known physical manner.
Yeah, I have no comment on that. I just worked on matter, ultimatons, etc., because it was clear for me that, as I said in the Urantia book, the foundation of the universe is material, but the essence of life is spirit.
Right.
It's spirit. It's spirit. For me, it's clear that it's spirit, and we do not know what is really spirit. We can know more or less what is matter. Then we can know what are, let's say, the ultimatons, because the ultimatons is the first manifestation of the matter, as it said in the Urantia book. We can go till there as a human being. Then, well, if we have achieved that, we are able actually to be, how to say that in English, to special beings with fantastic possibilities. But above that, it's the spirit of God, and so we have only the possibility to adjust, to fuse with our adjuster. So I haven't touched this this important point. For me, it's obvious, as I am a believer and Urantia Book reader since more than 50 years. It's obvious that it is something which goes beyond. Like you see, we could eventually define what is gravity, mass, time, etc. But we can never define what is God.
Mm-hmm.
This is just the unconditioned cause, and it's the reason why all these materialists could say what you are saying, you spiritualists, it has no value. It's completely wrong, because what they say is that the universe was created in a few minutes from nothing. Sorry, it's completely ridiculous. I prefer the explanation of God, which has much more logic in the creation than the creation from nothing. And especially if everything was created from nothing, how is spirit creating? How was spirit created? How was the soul created? We are not only matter, of course.
Philippe, I'm going to have to interrupt because we have come to the end of our time of discussion. We have certainly enjoyed your presentation and the discussion that has followed.